What are we looking at? Well, we're gonna look at this. This is the CJRB logo. You're gonna see it spinning in front of you right now because I honestly think that this is probably one of the best, if not the best, button lock that I've seen so far this year. So we're gonna take a good quick look at this new button lock from CJRB. CJRB and Artisan put out a couple. We're gonna look at this one right after you guys look at this logo. Guys, like I said in the intro, this is the CJRB logo. And I have to say, I've been carrying this for a while. You guys know the first impressions and everything went up a while ago. I did not do a first day in pockets on this because I just kind of ran out of time for it. But this thing is amazing. I have to say, I think this is one of the best new button locks on the market. CJRB has never really done too many button locks. They started doing a couple through CJRB and Artisan. This is one that I am really impressed with it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a spec sheet up over here so you guys can take a look at it. And we're going to talk about this knife in general. So I did not hard use this knife because this knife is going to be a giveaway item. It's going to need some cleanup, but you can see it's dirty. It got some use. This is going to be a giveaway item, but it's going to go to Jared over at Neves Knives first. So what are we looking at? We saw the spec sheet. We're looking at a G10 and I believe ARRPM 9. Yes, ARRPM 9. Now, this is a prototype. They may look a little different in the overall production market, production version. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to get some knives out. We're going to do some size comparisons. So the first knife is going to be my Artisan Sea Snake design. So as you can see, there are some small fixed blades out there. So if you have a Sea Snake, you've got a really good size comparison. This was meant to be a small fixed blade, so you can see you've got a really small fixed blade compared to a good sized folder. So your next knife is gonna be the Benchmade 940, which is not a small knife, but you can see this is a little bit bigger than this one. Overall, it's overall bigger, not just in length, which it is. So yeah, Benchmade 940, a good mid-sized full EDC folder that you've got there. So that's a good comparison. Your next knife is going to be, as always, the Chris Reeve Sebenza, because it's a knife that most people should know. This is a large 21. So you're seeing these are pretty much lengthwise. They are just about 1 for 1 in length. So not a small knife, not a real big knife. So let's get this out of the way and talk about this knife in general. So let's talk about this knife overall. We'll talk about some good, we'll talk about some bad. There's not much bad. I can honestly tell you there's not much bad. So this, like I said, is probably one of the better button locks, if not one of the best button locks out, new ones out this year that I've seen so far. This did come to me from CJRB and Artisan, so you can just kind of assume that this might be the best one that Russell had laying around because he knew I was going to review it. But that being said, I've never really gotten a bad one, even when I did some, of my own purchases of CJRB and stuff like that. So G10 handles, steel liners, button lock, so you don't have any lock mechanism you have to deal with over here. ARRPM 9 blade that is done, this was a prototype, but it's done in a nice satin. That comes down to a really, really usable, functional, well-ground edge. I'm not seeing any issues really with asymmetry. It's not like it's ground off too much. These are done by hand, the prototypes, so you may see some variance in a blade stock thickness behind the edge and things like that. That's why I'm not measuring this with the calipers. You are getting a really good multiple action blade, reverse flick, back flick, back flip, and you can use the button lock just like an access lock. You can use it for that fidgety fun thing that people do where they just use the lock mechanism, which is something you can't do with some other knives. A little talk about button locks real quick before I get into anything else. I like button locks a lot. They are a lot safer for use for people that aren't as familiar with knives, because the fact is when you use a button lock, your fingers are completely out of the way. Unlike a frame lock where I have to put my finger in the travel of the blade, you are completely removed from that. And the other thing is they are completely ambidextrous. Even if, you're used to doing a button lock with your thumb, you can absolutely do it with your index finger if you're left-handed, which is a good point to bring up because they gave you a reversible pocket clip. So the blade on this is done, I want to say that this is a kind of a drop point sheep's foot marriage or Wharncliffe drop point marriage. It's very good, useful blade. It doesn't have much flat. It is all belly all the time, all the way up, but it's not such a severe curvature that you are limited in use. That is nice. The nice thing about the way this is done is you can get up under things because you have this nice area. You can get up under stuff and not necessarily puncture. But if you do need to puncture something to do some cutting, you have a nice piercing tip. Transition down to the edge is fairly good. It is still a little bit thick behind the edge, but not bad. And the grind is done very consistently, very cleanly. You've got a lot of beautiful facets on this. And it just, not only does it just really look good, like I said, really super good action on this, really snappy. Listen to that sound. There you go. There's no stick in the button lock, no squeak, anything like that. The scales are done in G10. As I mentioned, they're redacted a little bit, so you see the liners all the way around. The liner's been really well polished. The aperture and the fact that they have removed material inside makes this a very light knife for the size. You saw this is comparable in size, almost 1-for-1 to a Sebenza, and you're not getting a lot of weight. This thing is fairly light. The cutting with it is great. You have really good grip on this. You've got this swell here at the back, but it's not so pronounced that you're forced up in like some other knives. Just really comfortable. Addresses the cut exactly like I would want. It doesn't, I've talked about it with the size of my hands. Sometimes a knife will roll out of the direction of the cut that I want. This does not do this. It lines up exactly the way I'd want. Nice little area here you can get thumb up on with some jimping, and a big adequate finger choil so you can get on it and do some hard, heavy-duty cutting. The spring tension on the button lock is good enough that even if you are up on that and you happen to get your thumb on it, you're not going to release that. I have not had it released in any of the use that I've had. Nice and stiff. The plunger spring on this is really good and strong. And then, like I said, easy to swap the hardware over to here and put your pocket clip over here for ambidextrous carry. As far as aesthetics, this thing is beautiful. I like a kind of a neutral handle color on some knives, especially if you're going to give me a pivot collar that makes it pop like that, which that red anodized aluminum pivot collar absolutely does. It is gorgeous. I would almost say I would rather that this was all black with that red. I like the black and red look, but I do like a really good satin, and this brings it. It really brings it when it comes in the looks department. The only thing I would say is maybe a darker color would be good for some people because it does get dirty. So as far as color scheme. So all the good things about the knife, the flipper tab is not one of those egregious, really sharp flipper tabs that hurt your finger. It is adequate. It works well. It's not uncomfortable anywhere in hand. And like I said, even when you get up on it like this, there's not much wasted space, really comfortable. So there's all the good things. There's only a couple bad things I've noticed. So let's go ahead and we'll flip this around so that we can do the bad. As always, I flip the knife, which means we're talking about the bad. And there's not much bad about it. Pocket clip tension is a little tight. Now you can adjust that yourself. I've done it a bunch of times. The G10 is a little bit grippy and could possibly be a pocket eater if you don't adjust that to pocket clip tension. It doesn't take much to do it. You can always loosen it up and then get this, wrap this with some electrical tape and then squeeze it down to the tension you want if you want it a little bit less. I didn't have too many problems with it, but I did notice that there was pocket material stuck underneath it. Jimping. We're going to talk about jimping. On the flipper tab, I don't mind a little bit of soft jimping on the flipper tab if it gets you just a little bit of traction. But if you're going to put if you're going to put jimping on the spine of the knife, I would much rather it be more aggressive than this. This is not super soft, but you can see that it's been softened over on those points just ever so slightly. And it just does not have a lot of traction, if you know what I mean. It just doesn't grip the way I would want. I don't like the look of jimping. And so to add jimping as an aesthetic thing for me is just not something I would want. The only other thing that I could say is the button lock is still just ever so slightly a little bit sharp. It's not so bad when the knife is closed, but when you open it, It's not, I would like that to be just a little bit smoother because it does stand up kind of proud. It does catch. It's not so much that it's uncomfortable. You notice that it's there. There's been a couple other knives that I've had come in with button locks, and they were a lot softer and rounder. One of them being case in point, that's why this is here, is this Hogue. This Hogue has got a nice rounded button lock, and you don't lose any of the features of that button lock by it being rounded over. So only thing I would change about the button lock itself is just kind of round it over, maybe dome this ever so slightly. But the nice thing is you get that really, it's kind of a cool aesthetic that you get on that milled flat top of the button lock. So is it an issue? No, it's just an aesthetic thing. Final thing, I don't like this. Artisan and CJRB have done so many other knives that have got a spot for a lanyard that are not an actual hole. I just find it unattractive. That's another aesthetic thing. And if there was one final thing I had to say, I would prefer to have extra screws in these holes to prevent dirt and grit and stuff from getting down in here. So if you did want to flip your pocket clip, you don't have to worry about, there would be times I might want to carry this left-handed, say that I wanted to carry this as an additional knife if I'm reviewing something else, and I flip this pocket clip so I can carry it left-handed like this. If you've got a bunch of grit and dirt and grime down there in the threads, it can be problematic sometimes to flip that, especially if you're using this knife in a dirty environment such as construction, which this knife would actually be really good for because it does not require you to manipulate much in the way of a locking mechanism. So there's the good, the bad. Let's turn this around, do some final thoughts, and I'll send you out about your day.
So there you go, guys. Like I said, I believe that this might be the best button lock that I've seen come in yet this year. I do like some of the other ones I've seen, but I think this one really is just about the best all-around offering between deployment, usability, blade shape, everything as a whole. I think this one's the top right now for the year. So yeah, I like it a lot. Guys, that's it on this one. If you like the content, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down, but please try to tell me why. I can't change the content if you don't tell me what you don't like. If you want to support the channel, it's as simple as like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon. If you do hit the bell icon, make sure you've got it set to all, and make sure you've got notifications turned on your device, or you will not get notified of everything that goes up. If you want to support the channel financially, I've got a handful of ways. A lot of them are like self-sponsorship. I have a ton of affiliate links down below. Anything you purchase at checkout will not cost you anything extra. And as a matter of fact, I have a few that will save you money. Coffee Brand Coffee, 5% off your order. Dahlstrom Knives, the people that are providing me some of the best sharpening stones I've had in years, 10% off your entire order. The other one would be Atlas VPN, which I believe right now is still running an upcoming holiday sale where you're getting 80% off for 2 years. That's $44 for 2 years, and that is the VPN I use. And Airfare Consolidator saves you 3% overall on your domestic airfare. But any of them that you choose, that you use for shopping, supports the channel directly. It doesn't cost you anything extra. Other ways you can do it, I have a membership that's tier-based. Everyone has access to my Gilded server. Everyone that is a baseline and premium tier member automatically gets entered into a giveaway that I do on the Gilded server. And the premium tier guys have access to a sharpening tutorial series here on YouTube that you can only find as a premium tier member. It's one of the best benefits. There's a lot of content in that and stuff, that you could learn from me for sharpening. And the final way is I have a merchandise store at Ember Shirt Co. where you can pick up my merchandise or other creators' merchandise for another discount if you use my coupon code CrazySharp, capital C, capital S, all one word. Saves you 10% at checkout anywhere on Ember Shirt Co. And if you send me pictures of you wearing my merchandise, I will put them in the backdrop of an outro. So guys, that's it on this one. I love you all. Keep it clean in the comment section. If it's your birthday, happy birthday, and I will see you in the next video.